In the last lecture, we wrote the logic of fetching all the messages for a given user from the database. And now what we want is we want to display those messages in the UI. For that, let's go to VS Code and let me retract this function. So what we want is, if I scroll down in our chat area component, we have this chat area div. And here we want to display all the messages which is there for the logged in user and the selected user. So for that, first of all, we need to design this chat area, and in there we want to display some messages. And in order to save some time, I have already written that HTML. So we already have this div called main chat area. In that div, we are going to use this JSX to display the messages in the UI. So let's go to VS Code, and instead of this chat area, let me go and let me paste that JSX. Okay, let's save the changes. And what we want is we want to repeat this div for each message which we are going to receive for a given chat. So we have all those messages in this all messages array. So we are going to loop over that all messages array. Inside this, let me use a set of curly braces, and we want to loop over this all messages array, and we want to loop over it using this map function. And for each iteration, we are going to get a message. Let's simply call it as MSG. And what do we want to do with each message? We want to display each message in the UI, and we want to display that message using this div. So let me copy it and let me paste it inside this function. Okay, and here we want to display that message. So for that we will say msg dot text, because each message is going to have a text property. And here we also need to return it in order to display it. Now if you go to the web page, there you see that we have an error, and that's because we are using this style property, because we need to use it in a slightly different way, and that we will do in a bit. For now, I will remove this style from here. Let's save the changes. Let's go to our application, and you see whatever message we have for this chat, that is being displayed here. But what we want is we want to display the chat sent by John in the right hand side. So basically the chat sent by the logged in user, we want to display in the right hand side, and the messages which that logged in user has received, we want to display it in the left hand side. And we also want to design these chats. So for designing, I have already written some CSS. Let me grab that CSS from here. Let's go to VS Code and let's go to index.css, and there let's go ahead and let's paste that CSS. Okay, if we go to the application now, you can see it is styled in this way. Now here, first of all, what I want is I want to style the messages in a slightly different way. So if it is a send message, if the logged in user has sent the message, in that case we want to set the background color to red, the color to white, and we want to have some margin left. Here I have set it to 100 pixel, and same thing we have done for received messages also, but there we are setting a different background color and different text color. All right, so let's go to chat.js, and there I want to set this class name. So basically this class name, and again here we need to use class name instead of class. And let's use curly braces here. So what we want is, if the message is a sent message by the logged in user, we want to have a different style. We want to use this send message CSS class. But if the message is the received message, in that case we want to set a different CSS class. In that case we want to use receive message CSS class. So first of all, we are going to write a logic to get if the message is a sent message or received message. So for that, let's go ahead and let's create a variable. So let me go ahead and let me create that variable here. Not here, actually we want to get the sender value from the message, so we need to write it inside this function body which we are passing to the map function. Okay, so inside that we are going to create a variable. Let's call it is current user sender. So if the message is sent by the current user, and to get whether the current user is sender or not, on the message we have a sender property. So each message object which we are saving in the database, there we also have a sender property. And if that sender property, the sender property is basically the user ID. So if this user ID is equal to the user ID of the current user, the logged in user, that means the current user is the sender. The current user has sent that message, right? So if the current user is the sender, then we want to display, I mean, then we want to use this CSS class, send message. Otherwise, if the current user is not the sender, in that case, we want to use other CSS class, which is this received message CSS class. Okay, let's save the changes. Let's go to the UI, and you'll see for the sent messages, the background color is red and the text is in white. And for the received messages, the background color is, gray and the text color is black. So this is what we want. Now I also want to show the sent messages in the right hand side. Here we do have a margin of 100 pixel, but I want these two texts to float to right. For that, on this div, on this outer div, we are going to set a style, and we want to set this style dynamically. And here also we want to use this is current user sender. So if it is true, what we want is we want to set justify content, and we want to set this justify content to end. Otherwise, we want to set justify content to start. Let's save the changes, and let's go to our application. And now you will see that the sent messages are displayed here and the received messages are displayed here. Now let me go ahead and let me type a message here. Let's send this message. So it should come in the right hand side. So for that, we will have to refresh the page, or we will have to come back to this again. Then only it will show. Right. Now let's go to Edge, and there let's refresh the page so that we can see all the messages between Mary and John. So whatever messages Mary has received from John, that is being displayed in the left hand side, and whatever messages Mary has sent to John, that is being displayed in the right hand side. And if we go to chat between John and Mary here, then it is exactly opposite. So whatever messages John has sent, that is in the right hand side, and whatever messages he has received from Mary, that is in left hand side. So in this way, we are able to send and receive messages. Now what I'm going to do is I'm also going to send a large text message here just to check if it is displaying properly or not. So for that, let's search for lorem ipsum text. Okay, let me copy this lorem ipsum text from here. And let's send this text from John to Mary. Let's refresh it. So it should come in the right hand side because John has sent this message, and you can also see a margin of 100 pixel here. Let's go to Edge, and there also let's refresh the page. So Mary should have received that text, and that is also being displayed here, and you can see some margin here, margin of 100 pixel. So this is how I wanted to display the messages, the sent and received messages. Now we can also go ahead and we can design these messages a little bit, but for now it looks okay to me. Once all the functionalities are implemented, after that we will work a bit more on the UI design. But for now it looks okay to me. So this is all I wanted to cover in this lecture. If you have any questions, then feel free to ask it. Thank you for listening and have a great day.